seeing Blink and a bunch of other stocks. So we're live, Rolland Market Mashup. I guess at this point we're just doing these randomly, but I felt like it was a good idea to come on here just because we haven't really come on here since there was that really big tech sell-off. And, you know, Dad, just what are your thoughts on everything? Obviously, tech's come back a lot, but you've been really big on the recovery plays and the cyclical stocks for a long time, and that's obviously paying off now. Where do you think we go from here?
Well, I think because there's going to be so much money entering the system through the stimulus that the stocks that the retail have been playing are going to get stronger, and the cyclicals will continue to be pumped because of the stimulus. So the market should be okay. I mean, we'll get these little setbacks. The bonds seem to have steadied to the point where people feel there's going to be enough buying from overseas that we can handle rates not going much higher than this. If that changes, then the techs are going to get hit hard again. But as long as it doesn't go to like 170 and in a fast way and beyond, you know, I think they'll be okay.
Nice. So you basically look at it like we're just going to have a broad bull market, and whether you're in tech or some of these SPAC names or the names you've been playing, they're all going to just start going up.
Yeah, I think the stimulus is that strong. I mean, it's a huge amount of money. If they start talking about the next infrastructure deal, then the bonds are going to, I think, get hit, you know, and the bond rates are going to go up, and that's a problem.
Gotcha.
You know,
well, I mean, that kind of
China in a candy store with the Democrats in power.
So are there then stocks that you prefer over other stocks, or really anything that you think has a good looking chart like where we were a year ago, or just that's it?
Yeah, I mean, you could obviously find a lot of individual names. There's a lot of stocks that have moved too quickly that you probably want to be peeling off. But, you know, in general, I think that is the way of it right now. I mean, you got to look at individual names, though. I picked up some Oracle today off of this big hit. I was looking at it and I was upset I wasn't in it. And this was your chance because they had a good earnings report, but the guidance was a little light. And they took the stock down 8% today.
That's wild considering what's going on with some of these other tech stocks.
Yeah. And obviously GE has gotten a couple of downgrades, and you know, for good reason. A lot of people aren't happy with the reverse split that they're doing. I'm buying more on weakness with GE. I think it's still great management. It's a little expensive, but I think it'll work its way back.
Well, they're also able to reinvent themselves from this pandemic. So GE, I think, is back to life in a way. Like if you look at them a couple of years ago, they were such a dud that no one wanted to touch. And now I think people are kind of intrigued by being a part of that story.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are negative on it are basically saying it's trading at a too high a PE for what you're getting. But
yeah, but they're talking about the past. That's where people are always distorted.
No, but that's what's going on right now. They have the wind business, which is killing it, and maybe they're getting a high PE off of that and a couple other things. But it is expensive, so it's got to grow into the price like so many names. But I think it's okay down here. I don't love it as much as I did, but it should be all right on weakness.
And what are your thoughts on Tesla?
I don't even know what to think.
Like, do you think there's a chance Tesla just gets back into full gear and goes right back to all-time highs and, you know, is up another few %, like it basically was last year? You think that trade is just done?
I think it's there's too many other names that people would rather own, but
like RNWK. that's crushing it
I
today?
just don't know. Tesla, I've been wrong on forever. You
Yeah,
know,
RNWK is a stock Mike and I got from Thomas Lee, who's that guy that comes on CNBC a good amount and is as bullish as a bull. And
Love his energy, that guy. He's my kind of dude. He sees the world as people should. It's like hopeful.
Well, yeah, it's Mike. As we're talking right now, it's at day's high. It's about to hit through 5.
Yep.
And it got to 5 when he first put out the recommendation to his clients, which was almost a month ago, and then went all the way back down to like 3 and change. But
which is, I'm hoping what DB is following suit with. Deutsche Bank, which I loaded up on earlier in the week and bought call options literally at the worst time probably of my life of timing something wrong. But I'm still confident that.
why? What is Deutsche Bank doing?
Nothing. They've been a dud the last couple of days. And I wonder if that, can you touch on that when it comes to a European bank that's clearly big for the reopening with Germany and that whole situation there? I know they were a terrible stock back in the financial crisis, but they're in a different mode now. And can you talk about when NASDAQ is strong like this? I seem to see a pattern of certain financial stocks just being duds on days like this.
Well, I mean, there's only so much money out there, so no one's buying financials on the day the techs are going crazy.
But is that maybe the day to do that, where you can get good value in a place?
Yeah, after they're down.
That's what I'm saying.
World just broke 43. I'm Camping World. I'm loving the stock because it's like not really trading on much volume. It kind of reminds me of Zillow when it was just doing nothing but went up. And today might be the start. It's at 52-week highs right now. It's just been on a steady climb all day. And I picked it up at like kind of the beginning of the day, just over 40. And I haven't even been really worrying about selling it because it's just such light volume that, I probably should sell it around here. Dad, when you look at that chart, I was looking at it and it just seems like in 2018, those levels are going to kind of come into play here soon. And maybe it's going to probably have some tough time getting through those levels for a bit. Is that how you?
Yeah, you're looking at a weekly chart. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at their like 5-year chart because I wanted to see if they were at all-time highs. And they did break through the 52-week highs, which I think says a lot. But now they got to get through like that whole 46 to 48 level,
Yeah, no, I see what you're looking at. It's stretched right now. It had good earnings, right? Which makes sense. Everybody is doing stuff outside. The question is, will they keep doing stuff outside? We're coming into summer. I think they will.
It's first off, I don't even think they are up on good earnings. I think they got a price target raise, and that's why they're up.
Well, their earnings just came out, right?
When?
In the end of February.
Okay. So not like within the last 2 days, but really, I think whether or not they continue to do well short term, obviously it's been like a big pandemic story. That Marcus Lemonis guy is just one of those, when you say to invest in executives and invest in leadership, to me, he's going to just take this company way beyond where it currently is. And I don't really know what that looks like, but he's one of those sharp, futuristic business mind guys like Mike. And, there's no doubt, though, that guy just has a lot of plans up his sleeve. Like when you hear him talk about turning like the RV business into a rideshare type thing, he's going to just dominate, and he's being aggressive with acquisitions. I think this is almost like another Portnoy story on a different level. Obviously, he doesn't have that kind of following in terms of like. I don't think people are.
But it's a different. He has his own cult following though, from the Prophet, and he definitely has that type of allure for sure.
And I think he's like extremely respected in the business world. Like people look at that guy as a beast.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What I'd like to know is how does he have time for all these companies?
Well, I think this is clearly his main thing. Like when you follow him on Twitter and see what he's doing, this is his business.
But that also, when you say, how do you have time? When you have a level that you're on, there's certain people that have that energy and level. They have time to do what they love doing. That's why
Yeah.
Elon Musk can balance a couple of public companies the way he does, because he's changing the world. So, you can make time for what matters to you. That's what the reality is.
So, Dad, you think we're out of the woods here from a week ago? Or like a week ago was honestly really brutal. I was definitely not really quite expecting a tech sell-off on the level that happened. And in hindsight, obviously it looked like it was really obvious with how the 10-year crept up really quick. You almost had time, but do you think it's just over with? I mean, it was brutal. It was like a 13% sell-off.
Look, I mean, the way these techs are acting, it almost acts like a bear market rally. But when you throw in the stimulus on the back of that and rates not getting crazy on the upside, that might be enough to make it last. But those
if you're right, and it is a bear market rally, you're basically saying like get out because you're about to go right back down to the lows you're at.
You definitely want to take profits if you bought stuff when it was down in the dumps.
Of course.
If you don't want to see that happen again. But there are risks. Obviously, the rates are the number one risk for these tech stocks that are pricey. And they are all pricey. When you look at just normal metrics on how people evaluate stocks.
Dad, do you never buy put protection at all? Because that was something yesterday I was looking, because I own Open Door, which is a super volatile stock. And I was looking at the puts. And Mike, I know we normally have sold puts, but I was actually looking at buying the puts and I did because they were so cheap. And I'm down obviously on the puts, but I'm up so much on the stock that I feel great about it, because I was looking at them yesterday and I'm like, okay, Open Door got all the way down to like 17 and change during that flush out. Maybe it's done going down. Maybe it's not. It's obviously come a really long way since its IPO, which was just this year. And then it got up to like 22. Now it's way higher. But the puts for, I think 22 for like 2 weeks out were like only like 80 cents. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, this at least is going to give me protection. If this thing goes right back down to 17, those puts will be up $4 or $5. It'll be a great move. And if Open Door is up huge like it is today, yeah, the puts are going to be down, but a fraction compared to what the stock is up.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you take out insurance, it costs you 5%. So if you do it all the time, I'm just saying 5%. It could cost you more. But if you do it all the time, that really eats hard into returns.
Gotcha.
So if you're day trading, yes. If you're thinking long term, I don't know if it's a good idea. I think it really hurts your return over time.
When you say day trading, you almost mean swing trading. Like if you're, yeah.
I mean, the way you guys are pushing it around, it makes sense to protect some downside.
If you're staying in names,
as a swing trade, yeah. When you see opportunities, it's the same reason to, sell some of these calls on these high flyers. Like like GameStop, I've been playing a little bit. And when the stock was 9, I sold the 9 calls for $1.25, which gives you a lot of protection on the downside, and it's for next week. Now it's trading at 2.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean,
with the stock at 10.20. So what? You don't even care.
Yeah, you could always sell call options and buy puts. And
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's really helping your cause.
Big time. And when you sell call options, you hope that the stock goes up and you're cashing out on those anyway. So it's almost just extra protection. And Dad, what's your take on crypto right now?
No idea.
Why are you asking Dad his take on crypto? He doesn't even know what crypto is.
Well, Mike, what's your take on crypto?
You know what my take is. It's the future. You have to be in crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think you have to be careful of all these names that no one really understands yet. There's obviously going to be a couple absolute winners. I think Chainlink is legit. I own a little of that. Besides that, I'm long a lot of Bitcoin. I'm not long Ethereum like you, but I own 15 Ethereum. And, I think, Dan, you heard that podcast the other night from the founder. When
Yeah,
you look at the future of startups with mobile applications, development, synergies, peer-to-peer, trust, smart contracts, the world is heading towards that. We're seeing it with NFTs. We're just seeing the world changing with how people look at things and how they value them and what they believe in, which is why you have to love crypto, because it's a belief system. And I think there's a major distrust and centralization with government from a lot of people.
Look, every stimulus that comes out is probably $5,000 in crypto.
But yeah, you'll see Bitcoin probably at this point almost not double from here the rest of the year, but I think you'll see it, it'll have random pullbacks, but it'll be healthy.
I think it's impossible to say where it's going other than what we've already talked about, but I'm still playing it through GBTC, very small. And GBTC is not keeping up with it at the moment. But
yeah, I know, it's annoying. I'm like, the problem now is for me, I'm up so much in GBTC that I can't even cash out.
But
like,
I know
that back in Coinbase, because I hate seeing waking up again today. There was this random down to $39, which obviously was fake again. But what is this? Like a couple days in a row, you're seeing these.
Someone's just doing it with your account, Mike.
No, Dad, that was a thing that's like people are complaining about it online.
No, for sure. There's definitely some like weird stuff online that you could find about that company that makes it where like, I'd be hesitant.
What I like today is a digital currency group is buying $250 million of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust shares.
That's GBTC.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they're probably buying it because it's cheaper than Bitcoin right now.
Well, no, it's definitely a safe haven. I just don't like the way it's structured. Like, it's just weird. They have a 2% management fee, which I don't even get. It's like, what are they managing?
I mean, that makes sense.
What?
That's how they all work.
Yeah, that is how they all work.
Yeah, I think that's other bullshit.
I think just to wrap this up, the last thing is, not everyone, a few people, not most people aren't really talking about it, have very, very bullish calls on oil and what it's going to do, not only this year, but like the next decade. And some people are saying we're as early as inning 2, and it's really just getting started. And these are people that have made some very solid calls and have the research to back it up. And I'm just wondering, what's your take here on oil? It's obviously come a long way. We could see ourselves, gas prices are way up. They're basically double in a really short amount of time.
Well, Dan, we're in a post-war world. We have to think about it. This Black Swan event with the lockdown from the pandemic, it's the same with the reopening.
For sure.
So I think energy, it has to be looked at in such a different way with where we're heading and what's going to be the growth that the U.S. is getting out of this, coming out of this is going to be unbelievable. So you have to be thinking energy has way farther to go, which is remarkable after last year when you think about it. But it makes sense.
That's actually what my next question, and I'm curious Dad's thoughts too, but like it almost seems like last year, this whole renewable energy electric movement with like companies like Plug and Tesla got so overly extended as if oil as we know it literally didn't exist anymore. And oil got priced to the point where at one point it was negative. So I'm almost wondering if, we've seen over the last few years, especially when there's this kind of liquidity in the system, you could see extremes on both ends to levels that just no one could even really think of. So when you use your imagination, it's not crazy to think that that can now happen the other way. And maybe people now look at energy as something that, Dad, I think you said how the Chevron CEO was on TV essentially saying that, the next decade for energy is going to be almost the best decade it's really ever had. And I'm just wondering if like there's a chance here energy shoots back to where it was and, years ago.
Well, I mean, the one thing to think about is as oil goes up, it pulls the economy down to a certain extent. So on one hand, oil going up is because the economy is really strong. And on the other hand, that'll bring the economy down. So it's a constant tug of war.
So how do you see it playing out then?
Well, I think you'll see supply, put out there as long as they're able to by the Saudis to keep the price in a range. And I think that range right now is probably 60, 80. So if it gets anywhere near 80, they're going to pump out supply. And, maybe at some point they change it to 70, 90, but they'll have a band in mind where they think the world can stomach the price. And that's what they'll try to control.
Is that like a 1 year thing, or is this like the next decade?
It's
like
an ongoing thing. I mean, you don't know 2, 3, 5 years out what the world can handle as a price. A lot of it depends on where inflation is and other factors. But if all countries are on this GDP explosion where if we're doing 6.5% and China's back to 10, 11%, oil is going to be pulled higher very quickly. And they'll put out as much supply as they can because they're making a ton of money off of that.
So, Dad, what are your favorite oil plays then?
Well, I'm in Chevron, and I like BP, and I like, I think Exxon is okay. I'm not in it right now. Everybody's been talking about Murphy Oil, Marathon, but, you talk about the oil services also. You mentioned Schlumberger.
I'm in that SLB.
Yeah, that's
yellow.
Okay.
That OIH one, Dan, we're in the energy ETF.
Yeah, XLA and OIH.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean,
at the same time, if oil gets up to a certain level, that's going to be more of a push for the EVs and the non-oil using companies, right?
Like as a cost saver, you mean?
Right.
So do you then look back at a plug that's been beaten down a lot at the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, any of those names, would benefit from prices going higher and higher.
They're up huge today.
Yeah, I guess the question is, could plug and regular oil both kind of rally together throughout 2021?
Yeah, they could. And, and to throw something else in, the Biden administration is going to definitely be trying to give incentives to anyone who's promoting green energy. So those companies are going to get an extra push.
Yeah, makes sense.
Most likely, and everyone's expecting that. So if it doesn't happen, that could be a negative.
So, Dad, to wrap this up, any thoughts on what's going on with basically like a repetition in the GameStop thing with AMC, GameStop? I mean, it's basically happened all over again, but it's almost more controlled, even though.
Well, I think everyone's gotten better at whatever they've been trying to do. There's no question. Like yesterday, when this thing ran up to 3 whatever, somebody decided they were going to short this stock and got a lot of stock to borrow and just put market orders in to short it, it looks like. And, then it held and some buyers came back in. But there's definitely either groups or individual hedge funds that are starting to shoot against this thing again.
Maybe Roaring Kitty sold all of his shares yesterday.
He might have.
At $350.
Yeah, but I read these Reddit posts and these people are just, it's almost like a cult.
I know, but there's also a lot of talk that's fake, and a lot of those are bots to try and manipulate regular people into thinking that there's this like cult of people holding these stocks, when in reality there's just not.
I'm sure it's some of that. I mean, in reality, what seems to be having, and I don't know if you guys have seen Steve Sosnick on CNBC. I used to work with him, and he's an option specialist right now. And what he said has been going on is some body or groups of people are buying far out options in a big way. And then the people who sell those options to them are scrambling to buy the stock. And that's happened over and over again in this thing. And as long as they make money, they're going to keep doing it. So, it's an interesting story, and it's not over yet, obviously. And then everyone's trying to jump on the other stocks that have big shorts. And so far, it hasn't gotten anywhere nearly as dramatic as GameStop. But you've had small blips, Rocket, AMC.
I find it interesting, CRISPR. I told you guys that book came out on them by Walter Isaacson. And of course, the last couple of days, it's been popping hard. The whole something around a big event with a stock, how there's a lot of times it's a positive catalyst.
Look, CRISPR's down in a straight line pretty much from 220 to 100. So even if it rallied to 150 to 160, it's almost like a bounce after an exhale.
Yeah, it's tough to find a stock that hasn't had like a massive relief rally in the last couple of days, and that's where it's kind of tricky to know whether or not you should get out of those names. Or
some of them you have to sell into the strength, and others, you have all these cross currents as we talked about.
Like, Dad, you see Snapchat today?
I hope it's up.
It's up 7%.
Nice.
Yeah, see, that's where you should take profits.
But I look at Snapchat's chart, and you could make a case that the stock can get back to about 61. I don't know what the high is today.
But then kind of have that head and shoulders and come right back down.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd call it a head and shoulders with this pattern, but it's running into a lot of resistance between 60 and 65.
Yeah, and then like the problem for me, and like I was telling you, but Mike, I'll tell you, is I've been in Snapchat since the 20s, and now it's like I don't want to sell it and owe taxes on like 100% plus move. It's almost, this is where I got to sell call options, maybe buy puts, and just figure out other ways to profit.
Yeah, I'd be all over selling the 60s. They're probably giving you a lot, and go out further than you normally would to get more of a premium for protection.
Yeah.
I just sold some options on CMPS for $60 in May. I mean, I have no problem doing that at $3.
Unless it's trading at 80.
I mean, who cares? Then I made a ton of money. That thing's going way higher, but that's a big.
Yeah, I mean, I could do the April 30s for the 60s. They pay about $6.
Yeah, so it kind of gives you protection down to where the lows were the other day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great call on Mosaic. That thing has been just cranking.
Yeah, I sold half my position yesterday.
I actually sold covered calls today for $40 for June.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they raised their dividend, didn't they?
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, and BHP got hit because iron ore prices, but it seems to have found the bottom now. Plus, I
actually got another 50 shares of BHP yesterday.
So we'll put out an order for $6, see if they hit.
Good stuff. Well, that should wrap it up here, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, Rolland Market Mashup, and we'll see you at some point in the future.
Yeah, we'll probably do it once a week.